Smith and Smith again. Changes in the pack. Will Borthwick stick or twist after the much-needed win against France? Hello, amateurs. Welcome back to our Six Nations series. Here with you throughout the championship and beyond. Hit subscribe. You know it by now. Yes, England could have lost. Yes, France had severe butterfingers, but who cares? They got the win, and right now, that is all that matters for England. Phil Greenaway and I did a big review into this one, and I will link it up there, over there somewhere. Go and check that one out. We did it very soon after the end of the game, and we were both a little bit, what have we just watched? But we picked out loads of interesting things from that game. So, yeah, go and give that one a watch if you haven't already. But in this video, I'm going to be looking at what England team I think Steve Borthwick is going to pick to face Scotland this coming Saturday. A few squad updates to tell you about first. Back into the squad comes Alex Coles after injury. Out, though, is Caden Murley. Sounds like he's got a potential stress fracture. They are just waiting for that to settle down and find out. So who knows for him about when he'll be back. But heard him on the Big Jim show this week, and he just sounds like such a lovely lad. It's like really down to earth, really just into his game, loves his sport, and really sort of respectful of opposition players and teammates and everything. I recommend going and giving that a listen if you're interested in that kind of thing. It's a good one, a real good one. Also back is Alex Dombrandt, the Harlequins number 8, who played and scored in the Premiership Cup this previous weekend. And if you get a chance to see that try on social media as well, I recommend that because it was a wild try by Harlequins, even by their standards. Okay, England, what have we seen? What have we seen? So I think against France, particularly in the second half, when they really needed to go after it, they showed some really good attacking shape. You know, when you're looking at them play and you're like, oh, there's holes, and they took them as well. Epitomised no more than the one that Jamie George went flying through. Haven't seen that for years from Jamie George, but I think that's off the back of some really good England attacking shape. We saw them compete really hard. You'd say this must be a given, but sometimes if teams lose faith, if they're not quite all together, then it doesn't look like this. England went from phase to phase and competed at everything. So that's a really good strong point, a real good shows they're a real team, I think. I thought they were defensively strong through the middle, which we've seen this tournament, but also susceptible out wide. Again, and against this week's opponents, that could be crucial. So that's an area for improvement. Okay, let's get into the selection and who I think Borthwick will pick this weekend. We'll start with the forwards as always. And I was looking to try and get some rotation into this front row. You know, starting game after game as front rowers can be challenging. But I just looked at the options that we've got and how people are performing right now. And I just think this is the best option for this game. It's combative. I think they're the best players at the moment for England as well. And I think we want to be starting with them. The guys that have come on off the bench have done well. And I think it just needs to stay that way. The rest week helps, obviously, this past week. So, yeah, normally I'd like to rotate, but I think this is definitely the starting front row. I've gone with Chesham into the second row for George Martin. I think his impact in the line-out against France was sizable, and I think we need him. I think our line-out needs work, and I think Chesham gives us that. Alongside Itoje, obviously, continuing as captain. It's slightly tough on George Martin, but his line-outs work's not as strong. He's been physical around the park, but he's also made a few little defensive errors, not necessarily missed tackles or anything, but misreads and just got in the wrong place. We've seen that a little bit from him over the last year. So I think overall, yeah, we'll miss a bit of oomph from Martin, but I think this is the right call, particularly for this fixture. And I thought the France game 2 weeks ago, the back row just looked much better balanced. I had question marks whether Willis would be able to bring that heavy carrying form into the international arena where there's famously less space and, you know, bigger individuals typically. And he did. I thought he had a really solid game for the time that he was on the pitch. I think it also allowed Ben Earl to be a lot freer. And we saw him in open space a lot more than we have done, I think, as a number 8 overall. So I think that forward pack looks nicely balanced for this week. Into the backs now. And the big question, what do we do with the Smith and Smith conundrum? Like, Was that just for France, that selection with Marcus at fullback? Does it make sense long term? I'm not so sure it makes sense long term, but I'm going to stick with it for this week. Scotland like to run the ball a lot from deep. Therefore, Smith maybe would have an easier ride from there. I also think that we don't need as much aerial strength. So, maybe Stewart coming back in for Smith maybe doesn't make as much sense this time. And I also think the dual playmaker access did really work for England at times. I think Marcus was maybe a little bit too, energetic, possibly. Like he tried to get involved in the game too many times. I think just needs to let things happen in front of him a little bit. And then really, really make his mark when the opportunities are there. In terms of the wings, I thought they both did really well going forwards against France. But defensively, particularly early in the game, they got caught very narrow. I think another week playing with Henry Slade, another week in understanding this current England defensive system should help them. And they'll need that because Scotland will certainly be challenging out wide. I think Slade and Lawrence are building. They're building. They're both clearly talented players. Does this combination really work for England? I think slowly it's starting to, but I'd like to see them take another step forward this weekend, particularly in terms of the kind of structured attack, particularly in terms of the shape that England are playing with. Mitchell obviously starts again at 9. He's England's number 1. And I would have picked Finn Smith to start this tournament and built this England team around him. Now he got that shirt last week and did well against France. I think he absolutely continues there in the number 10 shirt. Okay, onto the bench. And we have got the same front rowers. They've all done well off the bench, particularly Joe Hayes, actually. I've been a little bit question mark about his scrummaging consistency, but I think he's scrummed really well when he's come on, as has Finn Baxter. That's his core ability, really. Martin onto the bench, and I've gone with Dombrandt over Cunningham South, who didn't get used against France. And I wonder whether that was purely game specific or whether the couple of lapses he had off the bench against Ireland went against him as well. Either way, I think the experience that came off the bench against the French was really important. And I think Borthwick will go with more experience here in Dombrandt. Also an out-and-out number 8. If Willis is not making the full 80, you can swap him straight in without disturbing the balance of the back row. I think Dombrandt's attracted a fair bit of criticism over his England career about not being able to transfer club form into an England shirt, but I think he's slowly growing. Some players, it just takes longer to develop, but I think we're seeing more and more from him over his England performances as time goes on. I'd love to see him come on and have a really big impact, both sides of the ball. Ben Curry was amazing off the bench. He continues. Randall unused, but I don't see any reason to change that. And again, Daly just with experience and the ability to play across multiple positions in that the back 5 of the England back division, all across the 3 quarters. That's what I'm trying to say. So overall, keeping things much the same, really. A couple of little tweaks here and there, just for players that are coming into form. Chesham's now played a few more minutes. Dombrandt back into contention, these kind of things. But overall, we've seen this from Borthwick before. Like he likes to try and keep things quite stable, build these combinations if he can. And I think that is going to be what he'll be thinking about for this week against Scotland. Okay, overall, summing up, what do I want to see this England team do this weekend? What are the key things? And I've already mentioned them, really. So number 1, fix that wide defence. They're just getting caught a little bit narrow. Teams are finding it too easy to get around them. They need to just be more connected, slide to the touchline, use that as their friend. Scotland are definitely going to challenge them there, so we need to see that. And the other big thing, and this is key for England getting some attacking fluency, is to get a line-out platform. Those key line-outs in the Scottish half, in the Scottish 22, need to get 100% and high-quality ball as well. England at times in Six Nations have been winning the ball, but the quality of the possession, either knocked down, not where Mitchell wants it, batted away or whatever, hasn't been good enough. So England have not been able to launch many times a tool from lineouts. That will really help England's attacking play if they can get a really good lineout platform. Alrighty. That is what I think, folks. But what do you think? What do you think Borthwick will do? Do you think the tactics that I've mentioned are going to be what he's thinking about? Do you think there's other players maybe that need to come into this squad that aren't already? Let me know in the comments down below and I'll join you there for a friendly conversation. Give this video a thumbs up while you're down there. If you don't mind, it helps other great rugby fans like you find it. And you can subscribe there. You can watch that one next. And don't forget to get out and play.